Hello, my friend. Welcome to English Vids.
My name is Sarah, and I'm 24 years old. I've lived my whole life in a small town with my family. A town where everybody knows everybody, where my neighbors smile at me every morning, and where my parents are always just a few steps away. But now, everything has changed. Recently, I got a job offer in a big city, about 3 hours away from home. It's the kind of opportunity I've dreamed about for years, but it also means I must leave my family and my safe, simple life behind. Moving to a new city feels exciting, but at the same time, it feels terrifying. I packed all my belongings, mostly old clothes, books, and a few personal things, in 2 suitcases. My parents hugged me tightly and promised to visit often, but I could see the worry in their eyes. "Be careful, Sarah," my mom said. "Big cities are not like here. There are people who might take advantage of you." I tried to reassure her, but deep down I was nervous too. Would I be able to make it on my own? Would I like the new job? Would I find new friends? All these questions kept going through my mind as the train carried me to my new life. When I arrived in the city, the first thing I noticed was how fast everything moved. People walked quickly, cars honked constantly, and even the air felt different, busier somehow. Finding a place to live wasn't easy. Apartments were expensive, and most of them were either too small or too far from my new office. After weeks of searching, I finally found a place that I could afford. It was not perfect, but it was close to work. There was, however, one issue. I'd have to share the apartment with someone else, a boy named Daniel. He was also 24 and had recently moved to the city for his studies. At first, the idea of living with a stranger scared me, especially since he was a boy. How would my family react if they knew about this? I didn't tell my parents about Daniel. Instead, I told them that I had found a small apartment that I was sharing with another tenant. They didn't ask much, so I didn't say anything more. When I first met Daniel, he seemed polite but distant. We exchanged basic information, where we were from, what we were doing in the city, but we didn't talk much. I learned that he was studying engineering and working part-time as a tutor. "Let's just make sure we don't bother each other," Daniel said in the beginning. He preferred keeping things simple, dividing the groceries, sharing chores, and staying out of each other's business. At first, I thought this would work well, but very soon, the disagreements started. The problem was, we were very different. I loved keeping things clean and organized. He didn't seem to care much about tidiness. He played music loudly, especially when I was working or reading, and sometimes his friends visited late at night. I didn't like this at all, but I wasn't sure how to talk about it without sounding rude. One evening, after finding his dirty dishes in the sink for the 3rd day in a row, I couldn't hold back. "Daniel, can you please wash your dishes? This is getting annoying," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. He looked at me for a moment, clearly annoyed. "I'll get to it later. Why are you so uptight about everything?" "I'm not uptight. I just like things to be clean. Living together means sharing responsibilities," I shot back. "Well, maybe you should learn to relax," he replied before leaving the kitchen. That was just one of many arguments we had. There were misunderstandings about bills, schedules, noise, and almost everything else. Sometimes I felt like packing my bags and leaving. But finding another affordable apartment wasn't possible, and deep down, I knew things could improve if we tried harder. Over time, I noticed small things about Daniel that made me see him differently. For example, he loved sketching and had a notebook full of drawings of nature, people, and cityscapes. He also had a quiet, thoughtful side that appeared when he wasn't with friends. One evening, I came home feeling completely exhausted. Work had been tough, and I'd missed lunch while finishing a project. As soon as I walked through the door, I smelled something wonderful. Daniel was in the kitchen cooking pasta. "Want some?" he asked, his voice softer than usual. I was surprised. "Really? I don't want to take your food." He shrugged. "I made too much anyway. Sit down. I'll get you a plate." That was the first time we shared a meal together. We talked more than we usually did, and I learned a few things about him. How he missed his family, how hard it was for him to make friends here, and how he sometimes felt lonely. I realized we had more in common than I thought. From that night onward, things began to change. I tried being more patient with Daniel's habits, and he started being more considerate about some of mine. We stopped arguing as much and started talking more. One weekend, Daniel asked if I wanted to go to the park with him and sketch together. I hesitated at first, but decided to join him. Spending time outside helped me relax, and watching him sketch was fascinating. He had a talent I truly admired. We started sharing more moments like that, watching movies together, cooking meals, or even studying side by side when he needed to prepare for exams. It felt strange to have someone to depend on, someone to talk to, but it also felt nice. As our friendship became closer, I started worrying about what my family would say. In the town where I grew up, boys and girls were not supposed to live together, especially not in the same apartment. If my parents knew, they would probably ask me to move out immediately. Daniel could see I was nervous about something. One evening, as we were walking back from the grocery store, he asked, "Sarah, is everything okay? You seem distracted." "It's just my family," I admitted. "I haven't told them that I'm living with you. They wouldn't understand." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. My parents would say the same. But we're adults now. We can make friends with whoever we want, right?" I smiled a little. "Right. I just hope they trust me enough to understand that." Eventually, I decided to tell them the truth. It wasn't easy, and there were a lot of questions and worried looks. But after explaining to them how careful I was, how responsible Daniel was, and how much sharing the apartment was helping us both, they seemed less upset. "Just be careful, Sarah," my mom said, "and don't forget your values." I promised her that I would always do the right thing. As the weeks passed, my friendship with Daniel became something more. I started noticing little things about him. How he smiled when he finished a sketch, how he tried to cheer me up when I was stressed, and how he always said something kind before I left for work. One evening after dinner, Daniel looked at me and said, "You know, Sarah, I think moving to this city wouldn't have been as easy if I hadn't shared this place with you. You've made things better for me." I felt my cheeks grow warm. "Thanks, Daniel." You've made things better for me too. We didn't say anything more, but I knew something was changing. This wasn't just roommates learning to live with each other. It was two people learning to care for one another. Now, when I think about that small apartment, I no longer see it as just a place to live. I see it as the beginning of something special. Although I don't know what the future holds, I know I'm glad Daniel is part of my life.